Hello, this video is a construction update on the cabin. You can see it right there. And so I got the floor in. It's all treated wood, and then on top of that, I guess I'll explain the building process. So the floor, built that with help. The walls, I came up and spent a few days. I built that back wall first. It's got no windows, and also that half. These are 20-foot long sections. I built them in two 10-foot sections. So back behind the tent, that's a 10-foot wall. I was able to raise those pretty easily by myself. I had to put up a couple pieces of wood, so I'd lift it up against the piece of wood on the other side. I'd zip tie it to that, and then lift up some wall studs at an angle, kind of like this, and those would brace the walls, and then raise that up against it, put the plates on top, the top plates to reinforce the corners, and then those parts became pretty stable. The walls to the windows, of course, took the longest. You have to build the headers, you have to do all sorts of stuff, and a lot of measuring. But it also makes the walls a lot heavier. That wall was no problem. This wall was no problem, no windows. That wall is identical to that wall with 36-inch windows. But the one I had a problem with was this wall with a door and a big window. I think it's a 48-inch window. Almost couldn't get it up there. Took a few tries, but I eventually got my technique down and was able to stand it up and nail it in place. And then I moved on to the sheathing. Wasn't too bad. The walls, of course, weren't perfectly straight, so I would use a come along onto tree stumps and pull the corners out until the plywood lined up, and I checked it all with level and everything. So I'd put the plywood up by having a ladder leaning against the wall, and I'd slip the plywood up in between the ladder and the wall, so the ladder's leaning against the top, and then slip it on top of the floor and pound the walls into the proper place with the plywood sitting on top of it sometimes. And I just nailed them in. So I did that with 3 of the walls, and then the last wall, by the time I put the plywood up on the last walls, it was perfectly straight. So I didn't have to use the winch at all. It was very nice. And then a few days ago, with some help, I got the joists for the loft up. They're 2x6s. I don't know if that's going to be enough, but my contingency plan is I'll double up on 2x6s if I have to. And that's to strengthen it up quite a bit. I got some plywood just laying on top so that I can walk around up there. The 2x6s do hold plenty of weight. As far as I can tell, we had 3 people standing up on top of a specific part of it, and it didn't budge. So this is going to be the loft. And there is a rafter and a ridge beam, another rafter, and I guess a wall stud right there. I have parts to put the rafters and stuff up today, and I pre-cut a bunch of them. They're leaning against the cabin down there. But This is it's a pretty big drop. And I got friends that are gonna come up and help me in just a couple days. So I pre-cut as much as I could, and we'll get that all raised up together. From here you can kind of see the view. Down there is the snow machine. There's a little loop down there, but that's as close as the snow machine can get, which means you got to carry the wood up this hill. It's about 20 feet vertical, maybe 50 feet away from here. So it's not too bad, but it does slow down the process a little bit, having to carry every piece of wood up. See, this area doesn't have too many trees. Lower on the property, it's a pretty good forest. There's a lot of trees down there, but this area, it's a little more sparse and wide open. And then I really doubt that it's visible, but there's a great view of Denali over there. It's a pretty good view. It's a lot easier to see here, and it's a lot bigger than Anchorage's view, but through that window, when you stand at the back of the cabin, the mountain takes up about a third of the window, which, I mean, it's still a good distance away, but it is a pretty big mountain. And this is the new campsite. Big improvement. I was only able to move this tent onto the floor as soon as the loft was up. And now the snow is going to catch on the loft and not the tent. I won't have to worry about it collapsing. It's nice and even. I won't be sliding out of my mattress at night. It's all closed up, but the inside of the tent's about the size of a queen mattress. Then I, of course, have a microwave, a little light. I eat a lot of microwave food because it's the easiest to cook up when you have a generator. And I don't want to be fiddling with propane. It's 0 degrees today. I don't think I could really get a propane stove going today. And it just takes extra time that I could spend building this cabin. So it's just easier to use microwave food. And there's the generator. Keep it set up. Over there, you can see my exhaust pipe. It's done its job pretty well. It keeps the moisture out of the carburetor. So it's been starting. I have a new carburetor on it. But it's been starting on the first or second pull, except this morning took a few. But it is due for an oil change, so I'm going to be taking it back and changing the oil.